This
I was hoping there
conference
were
will
going to be
now
much
be
more
recorded.
today, but maybe they'll join us shortly. Welcome, Bill. Welcome, Scott. As we start this discussion, if y'all have any topics that y'all wish to discuss before we get into the main topic of the day, please let us know. Sweet. Silence is acceptance. I hope everybody's had a good week so far.
It's been great.
We'll go with your low res camera.
What?
Wow. Let me guess. It's a Mac thing, right?
No, it's probably his fiber internet.
Phone.
Well, let me run a speed test and see. We should be back to normal though, from what they say.
Well, yeah, then it's his Mac.
I was waiting on that one. Okay, so the topic of the day, all about the Auroras. The differences, the good, the bad, the ugly. Mostly good so far. So we have a variety of the Aurora series to choose from, and I don't have it pulled up here in front of me, so I'm going to try to remember the best that I can. We'll start with let's say the smallest one, but the easiest one, which is the Aurora Light. 50-watt source, and it's a Hans.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Now,
Are you sharing?
No, there's no slideshow.
no, there was no need to bore everybody with the slideshow.
Okay. Therefore.
I thought about boring myself making one, but it is what it is. So we have the Aurora Light. The less expensive of the Aurora models. The 50-watt Han source. It does not have a camera and does not have autofocus. Pretty much those are the two main things for the Aurora Light. And it is on the less expensive side compared to, let's say, the 100-watt MOPA. That is a fiber source. But then we move up one more step to go to the Aurora 8 models. And then in the Aurora 8 models, we still have, is it a 50-watt source or is it a 60-watt source for it?
That should be a 50-watt and a 100-watt.
Yep. That's an air compressor. So we move up into the Aurora 8s, and then we have the 50 and 100. The 100's a MOPA. So that allows us to do a few more things to control the frequency or control the Q pulse, and extends the frequency ranges. So you're, going back to the opposite ends of the spectrum, we're looking at a 50-watt that has a limited frequency range from 50 to 100 watts. I was thinking about the old 20 watts that had the lower frequency range. So you'll still get good performance out of it. You just can't control the frequency range, or it's a more narrow band. Still does fantastic. I know that when I had the original version 1 of the Aurora 8 with the 50-watt Raycus source, the frequency ranges did everything that I needed it to do at the time. So, looking at that Aurora Light, on the opposite end, we have the 100-watt MOPA, which now we expand that frequency range from 1 to 4,000. And then the Q pulse as well gets expanded with that. So we have a lot of varieties you start talking about changing lenses and getting bigger sizes and things like that. It can do some neat stuff. And that is a JPT source for the 100-watt MOPA, but the 50-watt is still a Raycus source.
Any of the MOPA sources should be JPT.
JPTs.
Correct.
And the non-MOPAs are going to be Raycus.
Correct. And then we have
the Hans for the Aurora Light.
Correct.
3 sources for us to keep track of their quirks, their specifications.
And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we are limiting that down now to 4 models. Is that correct?
Should be the Aurora Light, the 50-watt
MOPA, and then the 100-watt MOPA, and then
MOPA.
The UV.
Yes, the UV. So 3 fibers and 1 UV.
Correct. If I'm not mistaken.
Now, taking into account, we've kind of hit on those 2 or the 3 fibers. We switched to the Aurora 8 UV, which is a 5-watt JPT source. Fantastic machine. The detail, what's the word I'm looking for? The variability or the ranges that it can do from material it is fantastic. It's limited to a small bed size or a small working size because of the lenses, but all in all, it's fantastic. Fantastic source and fantastic machine.
The UV, you can still get the big lenses.
Yes, I have one of the bigger lenses, but it's not like it's you're doing what, 5 up to like 5.2 inches. I know you were able to stretch it a little bit.
Yeah, that was on an old lens. Let's see here. I got a screenshot.
254, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what I've got one of the old lenses.
You can throw a 290 in there and get an 8-inch, just like all the others.
Yeah, I've got the f254.
Yeah, and that's one of the old series lenses. We now offer the same range of lenses, the 160, 210, and 290.
But now, with that being said, the lenses are different.
Correct.
Or are they not? I can't just go and, there's a 290 lens, it'll work on my UV. No, it has to be specifically for the UV.
Correct. It won't work very long.
So I just kind of want to make that clear out there that, the fibers have lenses, the UV has lenses. You cannot intermingle them or swap them.
Don't cross the streams.
Exactly. So with these, we start looking now at the different setups, and they all set up the same way. We've got, for the thumb drives that come in, is labeled as the easy button. It's a quick and easy import of your settings straight into Lightburn, and pretty much sets the machine up and everything for you. It's fantastic. I wish they had that years ago, instead of going through the steps and the motions and putting everything in manually. But that now is available, and that's available on all machines across the board.
You can thank Myers for that.
And we give him the golf clap.
Right. You still should do your 9-point afterwards, though.
And that's right. and I'm getting to that one. That was my next big bold point on my little note sheet, so I didn't forget, was 9 points. The directions say you can download the core file. I will tell you, don't bother with the core file. It's probably going to come in inaccurate, or it's going to come in as a standard file. You need to run the 9-point lens calibration, and you're running that on every lens that you have for those machines, whether it's the fiber or the UV. You have to run those on each one.
Yeah, what I tell people is, the 9-point was built by Lightburn for Lightburn, whereas the core file was generated in EasyCAD that you're importing into Lightburn. So there's some sort of translation. If you ever use like a Google Translator for language, yeah, you get the right words, but it's not the right phrases and stuff like that.
Something
All
gets
the
lost in
translations.
translation.
Yeah.
And the 9-point, the or the 9-point is relatively easy and straightforward. What is it, about 10 minutes?
Yeah, you spend
When
more
you've done
time
them enough.
measuring. Yeah.
You got to figure that all the machines, all of the lenses are there's a tolerance zone, right?
Yep.
So they don't they go with a nominal at the factory with all of these lenses, and there's always room for improvement with your 2-inch lens for your Bolt or your Nova, all the way to the Aurora series, where you can really push it to the limit. As Chris found out, you can get a larger working scale. I mean, Thunder's pretty good at being cautious of what they're promising. So is there a little bit more range to get? Yeah, I mean that's pretty big. That's a 6x6. You're on mute too.
Should be 8x8,
Oh,
foresight engraved in the diagonal. But it was
right.
done on the UV with the 254 lens.
254, right? Yeah, that's a lot more than they say.
Yeah, I want to say they were. I stretched it to 175, and I think the specs originally showed like 150 or something like that.
Right.
But it did good. It was square. I could get a squared output, scaled, all that good stuff. So this is on ASA with a little carbon fiber texture to it, and then engraved on the UV. So it came out pretty cool. It's flexible, so if you want to make some cool little inlays or some other weird stuff, you could then do something there.
um, so yeah, I mean, I would I don't want to beat the 9-point to death, but it's an invaluable tool, and I try to explain it to people. Look, we got a round lens, and we're trying to project a square or a rectangle through it. It's going to be some odd shapes as that light deflects or changes as it goes through the lens. So these calibrations help us square that up and give you straight lines. Um, now we go to once we've done the 9-point, now we're available to really start pushing this machine and doing what it's meant to do. So it comes down to like workflow. Um, I know when I do trainings, especially when I've got, we've got somebody that has both. We have a gantry and a Galvo or the Auroras. It's okay. You got to get the the differences in workflow in your mind. So you're used to finding an origin. The Auroras don't really have an origin; it's center. So the more you can keep your image in the center of your work area, the more uh, direct the beam passing through the lens is going to provide you that power or that detail or whatever you're looking for. So again, keeping everything right dead center. And I've now gotten into the habit of even using the gantry. Everything just goes into the center, so I don't forget. Uh, you know, each of your lenses is a separate device with separate setups, separate 9 points, the whole night. All of that. So just because I have a 100-watt MOPA, I have a device that's labeled as my f160 lens or my 150 millimeter lens, or however you wish to, a 200 millimeter lens, however you wish to label it. That's just, kind of how I have, so I know which one I'm flipping over to. Um, and again, each lens has its own working area, so your sizes are going to be different and things are going to change a little bit. Even with these machines, your settings you may not get the same setting or the same results with the uh, the 150 millimeter lens that you will with the 110 millimeter lens.
Yeah, so somebody was talking on Facebook about these 400 by 400 lens. You get that tall mast machine, open bed.
Oh, that's like 12 by 12 or something that they can stretch to.
Shoot, that's beyond 12 inches. I
Yeah.
mean that. So, 4 times the area of the 200 by 200 lens. But the variation, just from like how high up you are, corner to corner, that beam travel, the how much longer that beam has to travel to reach the corner versus the center, it just gets worse the bigger you get. And I kind of wonder why those lenses aren't as popular. I mean, workspace, everybody would love to have great workspace, right? But there's got to be some drawbacks in having that big of a work area compared to your settings in the center versus your settings in the corner.
Most people need a tower extension on that too when they start going into there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
which is
got
a small purchase, right? Like just to do all that, but why aren't those lenses more popular?
yeah.
Is it because of the detail? Is it the
Yeah, that's what I'm
loss of
saying.
the detail because that dot size is now just massively grown compared to the 110 or the f160 lens?
Yeah, I mean, just the geometry, the angle. If you're going 8 inches from center, how much further that beam traveled? I mean, from that center point of the lens. Now
Yeah,
there are some that are putting the Galvo heads on an XY gantry, moving those suckers around, doing some kind of crazy stuff. I'm not sure how well it lines up. You better have your
Yeah, that that
calibrations right.
that one's
It
a
would
little
be
interesting
great
in
if
my
there was
opinion.
a fiber laser in a gantry format.
Try that again, George.
I said it'd be great if there was a fiber laser in a gantry format.
A gantry-based fiber laser. That's
Yes.
what you're.
It can go like several thousand millimeters per second.
Or a gantry based UV laser.
They've got
Ooh,
gantry-based
I
fibers.
don't know about that wavelength and that with that UV. It's all about, well, with all of the galvos, it's all about focus. If you're out of focus ever so slightly, you're going to get completely different results.
Yeah, the UV is cool. I do like it.
Oh, I have, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's probably the favorite in the shop here. So again, each lens is its own device. You got to set them up individually. As I mentioned before, focus. It's all about focus. You can do some neat stuff when you're out of focus for the fibers. On the opposite side with the UV, if you're out of focus, then it may never engrave, or if you're doing glass, you may engrave the wrong side of the glass. My, I think we all might have done that one once or twice by accident or on purpose.
Oh yeah, you can definitely do the inside of the glass if you want.
We warn people when they bring us bourbon bottles. You know, okay, well, if I get if I mess the focus up, then I'm going to be engraving on the inside of this thing, um, or it's just not going to happen at all. And I've seen that. I've been out of focus, and I get nothing. But changing that around, the I guess all of them have what I refer to as a sing. There's a very distinct sound when especially the UV, when you're in that proper focus, that sound that it's making, it is truly a fantastic way to let you know you're there. Same way with the fibers that I've seen, they get louder with more power, they get softer with less power. If you're out of focus, they change tone completely. Is that what you found as well, Silo?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a sweet spot, and when you use the z-axis to go further away, it'll fade away, and then also when you get closer. So there, I watch it and I listen and I wait for that really bright light and that really strong sound.
Uh, so, and then with all this, it's kind of a, I don't know. I saw it on Facebook earlier. When we talk about adding a rotary to these, it's a little bit different than the gantry. The framing is completely different than a gantry, where you used to be able to hit the frame button and watch the gantry move or the head move around the perimeter, or whether it's the square or the rubber band engrave and light burn. The Galvos will project it, and we have 3 different ways that it will project it. So you have to select which one that you want to see. And when projecting it on a tumbler, a cylinder, whatever glass, then you're not getting that curvature. You're not, you know, you're just seeing that red beam of the frame extend way outside of where it should be, and it kind of looks a little funny. But as long as you have it lined up top to bottom and your rotary settings correct, once you engrave it, the rotary will spin and it should start engraving, providing you're at the right focus.
Questions, comments about fibers or anything?
Everybody just loves to hear me talk. I'm gonna see if
Carry on.
On a sidebar, I have good news.
what is that, George?
Bought a building.
Yeah,
Commercial.
yeah.
Are you moved in yet?
No, grand opening's probably not going to be until mid-September.
I'm gonna try to pull this up. Okay, let's see if I can do this. So we're going to. Okay, so I got Lightburn open and I pulled up for rotary. And this is kind of one of those things, especially with the Galvo. Um, whether it's a chuck or a roller, both of them will work. The low roller works well in any of the Auroras, and the Talon or Talon Pro, depending on which one. The chuck style rotaries work very well. But the one difference is right here that we'll start seeing is your split setup, so your size and your overlap. And because of the way the rotary interacts with the Galvo, it's got to do tiny little lines and have them overlap to keep you from getting I don't know, Chris, how would you explain that look? Stripes?
Yeah, for sure. Stripes or separation. Yeah, so you're either going to get overlap of your splits, you're going to get separation of your splits, or you're going to match them up. Usually doing text, it's not a big deal. But if you have an image or a logo, it becomes very difficult, and maximizing, or I guess taking that split size to the absolute limit, which is like 0.01, I think.
And that's what I'm getting ready to. This pops up with this, but fortunately, I got notes to make sure I don't forget. Old age is what it is.
Was I close?
So, and then, yep. So this is kind of based off of the article.
Right.
Granted, when you did that article, um, everything was in inches, so I had to struggle and convert everything to millimeters because back then you were not a convert. It still aren't.
I am, except for my artwork.
So yeah, looking at typically on all of everything that I've run so far, the split's been 0.010 and an overlap of 0.002, and that so far has worked whether it's a chuck rotary or a roller rotary.
Right. Yeah, you're kind of forcing it to almost act like a gantry, where it's doing almost line by line and moving, and it's very hard to mess up that split size at that point. But
Yes,
it takes longer. It takes a lot longer doing it that way.
we did a julep cup, put a logo on it, and it took an hour and 17 minutes.
Yep.
Came out absolutely beautiful, but it took an hour and 17 minutes in the UV. I think with the fiber, we got it down to 20-ish to do a little, maybe I don't know, about 100 millimeter, 90, I think is a small, is 90 or 80 millimeter, something like that logo.
All right.
So I'm looking here at the notes. I'm trying to make sure I understand what you wrote, George. Rotaries can change steps between versions of devices, version 1 versus version 2.
Yeah, so for example, if you buy a version 1 of ABC Company Rotary and version 2, be aware that the steps per rotation can change based upon modifications they made for the motor.
As well, yeah. I mean, as with all companies like that, as they change things or make their tweaks, then yes, things like that can change, and
And
that's why
then
the
just,
manufacturers should have their user manuals with all that
mhm.
information in it.
And then me personally for overlap, I've been running purely zero, and I've been having really good results, surprisingly.
And how is your time though?
Not bad. I'm running a project right now for rocks glasses. The engraving is roughly 50 millimeters by 50 millimeters on a 10 and a half ounce rocks glass, and I'm pushing out a glass every 3 minutes
Okay,
on the UV. So not bad. I mean, I could probably optimize it a little bit more, but I like the results I'm getting, so I'm willing to, take a little bit longer run time.
well, as I tell everybody, results are very subjective. You may like them, I may not. You may not like
Mm-hmm.
mine, and I like
Exactly.
mine. So um, that is what it is. So, and again, with your rotary, obviously your steps per rotation. If you're doing a chuck, then you need your steps and you need your object diameter. If you're doing a roller, then you need your steps or your roller diameter. And split sizes for us, for what I've seen, doesn't really change. So um, that's kind of just on on rotaries. They generally work the same. You just got to worry about that split and overlap. That way, you can start laying those lines on top of each other and not have the separation. Uh, I have done that, not paid attention, and had pinstripes that look like running through an image. So I'll open it up. Any questions on the auroras or anything we haven't covered or something you'd like to go over? God, I love the sound of crickets. It's so calming and soothing.
I can tell you that I absolutely love my UV and my Aurora Light. They are probably used more than my Nova 51 100, and they are, I call them the money makers for a reason.
Oh, absolutely. I, you know, the they're a must-have in any shop once you start progressing along. So I'm going to do a follow-up on the other 2 weeks that we talked about. How is your system working, Chris, with your surfaces attached to the face and running your individual machines?
Perfect. Haven't had any issues. As much as it hurts me to say that.
Oh, I know it's quite painful to watch the smile grow.
No, it runs really well. It took me a day or two to figure out how I wanted to run the transfer of files. But once I figured that out, they run great. Yeah, being able to use one and not have to worry about switching USBs or stuff like that, them self-contained, is very nice.
Any issues with the screens falling off or
Yeah, the first
anything of that nature?
yeah, the larger one, the first one I put on there did fall off, or it actually started to lean. But I just did it with the removable Velcro strips, the 3M strips.
Okay.
So it just came off a little bit. But I put larger, more heavy duty ones on there, and it works perfect.
Sounds like somebody needed to design a holder that either bolts to it or magnets to it.
A 3D. Yeah, the only issue, magnets would work great, minus the fact that that door is aluminum. So I guess
I can see some nuts and bolts.
yep, some through bolts and piece of metal and some magnets on the surface, or vice versa.
Yeah, I still have to straighten my door. One of these days I'll get around to it.
Yeah, but I love it. It works really well.
Well, good. That's a great update. We appreciate that.
I might have to build a tutorial, a video on how I did it. I mean, it's nothing crazy, um, but it is out of the realm or understanding for some people.
But
Touching.
you've had no issues of it drawing too much power from the computer or changing anything because of that.
No, nope. I set both of them to 5 hours before they go to sleep. Um, because I do want them to go to sleep, and I don't think I'm going to be running anything for 5 hours. And if it does shut off, it has shut off on me once, and I literally wake it and it picks right back up where it left off. So that wasn't a big issue. um, but as far as current draw, no. I mean, that's charging is for what, 5 amps maybe. It's not pulling anything.
But I thought I'd ask for clarification just in case, that.
Yeah. Nope. Well, I went to the hot side of the switch, so it's pre-switch. So it's just like plugging it into the outlet for the most part. This way it stays charged. I don't have to worry about if I don't use it for a couple of days, will the surface fire up and have to wait for it to get to 5% or whatever. So it's always being charged.
There is one thing that I know I didn't cover, and I'm going to need everybody because there is subtle changes that I've seen or subtle differences in the beds of all of these machines, the ones that we have. So the Aurora Lite has a standard bed that has what, M6 or M8 holes
6.
at 20
M6.
M6 at 25.4 millimeters or 25 millimeters apart.
Yeah. What is
I
that?
want to say just 25 millimeters.
Um, so that type of um, base or bed, I should say. Now, when we move into the UV just has T-tracks, or has that been changed to the holes and the T-tracks?
It should be changed to both.
So the UV bed will be like the 100-watt MOPA,
Correct.
where it's T-tracks and holes.
Which my 100-watt MOPA is probably one of the first ones, and it does not have the holes in the T tracks.
And for anybody, okay, hang on a second. I got this. At least I can do this one real quick. That is not what I wanted to do.
Make sure you keep it PG.
Nope.
Oh,
Let me
Tommy,
get rid of the background. Yeah, I know.
Tommy's swimming in the lake.
Yeah, I got tired of the background. Okay, so here we go with the bed for the. So we have the holes and we have the T-tracks.
Right.
My UV just has T-tracks. George, your UV just has T-tracks, correct?
I know he
No,
wants.
sir, I made the upgrade.
Okay, yeah, you made a change.
Correct. I bought the upgraded. Oh wait, I'm sorry. My UV has it does. It has T-tracks and the 5 mm holes.
Okay.
So for George, his light came with just the cheese plate with the bunch of holes in it, right?
The light came with just the cheese holes, correct? No
And you
T-tracks.
and you wanted the T tracks with the holes in it.
For the UV, yes, sir. Because originally the UV only came with T-track only.
Okay, but you're okay with your light having just the cheese plate?
I would be fine with it just having the cheese plate. I never used the T-tracks ever.
Okay.
That's just me personally. I know some people love them, and for the people that do, I think it's a great thing to have.
And
Yeah.
when I first got the UV, I just cussed the T-tracks. Absolutely despised them. And now I can't live without them. It's funny how things change when you start using them and you build your workflow. And Chris is laughing at me because he knows it. He heard it, right?
Yeah, y'all hated
But
the T tracks. It's like the T tracks are more flexible than the cheese plate. You got the same spacing, and you can put an M6 anywhere in the T track.
Yeah, the only
um,
issue that I had was, setting a rotary on there. If you caught it in the groove, it wasn't really stable. But now with the Talon having that L bracket and mounting, different story.
and I guess I've gotten to the point I keep the Talon on the stand, and I had our son design these brackets or plate to extend my bed a little bit. Yep, I have the same thing, but it's just for me, it's quick and easy. My fat fingers have a hard time getting underneath it there and tightening them down enough. Um, so yeah. It's fixed.
To change your name from angry to happy?
I'm always happy, George. I am a nice guy. Sort of.
Sam, but anyways.
Oh, sorry, Sam. I didn't see
It's all good.
I saw George's green light up, not yours. My apologies.
Don't want George getting in trouble for something I did.
So those are the three different, or the multiple different beds that come with. There is no one standard bed, unfortunately, but each one's going to come with its own specific bed.
I think
am
now
starting.
it's the light comes with the cheese plate, and the others will come with that. And then depending on their vintage of the Aurora, if it's an older model, you may still get the T tracks. But
Standard now.
yeah, it's like
It'd
we
be
still
nice
have two
one
of
day if they
these,
were reversible.
right?
That would be nice.
We've got two 20-watt Auroras still sitting out there, so they probably have just the T tracks.
Yeah. I forgot to ask the last person that we did a training with what their bed was.
I want to preface that one. Is it a Serta?
Yeah, nah, sleep number. You know. So, any questions? I mean, we can get off of Auroras now. We're 20 minutes away from the end. If y'all have any other questions, or I don't want to say comments, but you got any other questions about the machines or workflow or any of that?
George, are you looking to upgrade your Nova?
I will be looking to get an additional 51-inch laser probably sometime in October.
Be a good time. You should watch what we introduce in Ignite.
I was gonna go, but since I made the purchase of the building, I've
Understood.
got quite a bit to get ready for between now and then. But I may see if I can do a little secondary trip down later.
Yeah, it'll probably end up on YouTube. I'm sure the marketing guy will put all that stuff on YouTube.
Gotcha.
If not, I'll have our cameras there.
So, and somebody will probably live stream it on Facebook.
Yeah,
Somebody.
jump on board that.
Somebody with the initials of CNL.
Yeah.
That's what I figured.
Why would I do such a thing?
Because it gets buzz. Kind
Yeah.
of like your haircut.
Whoa.
It's growing out a wee bit.
It is. It is. It's about time to cut the sides.
You need to tighten up those sides a little bit.
Yep.
You're about half inch taller leaving the 7-Eleven now.
So mean to me.
That's not mean. It's a fact.
I guess so.
Like when my hair was a little wonky, I was about 2 inches taller, 3 inches taller.
Did
There you go.
in previous calls, the bi-weekly calls, did we ever have a topic based around tying multiple lasers into one uh, ventilation shaft?
I believe
May have.
about it.
I know
Um,
that Jason did one on YouTube video of it. I just had a conversation with a local, one of our other friends, and they're tying multiple lasers into one, and the issues that they're running into. So, but
Yeah, you just got to get a big enough fan and know that it's going to pull from all of them. Else you got to put on blast gates. To where you can block off a machine at a time.
And the fan that they originally gave out with the Novas, the large vertical I can't remember what they used to call it.
They're just an inline 6
oh
or 8.
no, I think he's talking about the big green.
Oh,
Yes.
Centrifugal.
the hamster wheel fans. Yes.
Are they outdoor capable? Like you could leave those outside permanently?
I wouldn't put them outside permanently. There's probably an IP rating, but it probably has a 4 on it, not a 6.
Gotcha.
Always build a box around it.
Yeah, some people put them like in those Keter storage boxes or whatever. And they can leave it by their window and makes a little less.
In Texas, they have them on the outside of the building, and they have them in a box of some sort.
Hey, you
Keep the
could do
rain
like
off of them.
go get like an old smoker or something, like a washed up one that somebody's used, and just put the fan in there. So when the smoke's coming out of it, it looks like you're just smoking meat.
Be a good idea for some of these people in neighborhoods with HOAs.
right? I'm just cooking. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yep.
Cooking the smell of acrylic. Ugh.
My brisket's a little burnt. Who's hungry?
You could always
bad.
put a helper fan at the very end to draw all of that through.
And that's kind of what I talked to them about. So they have 3 fans each. So one of their lasers has a triple port in the back of it. So they've got a center one, or they've got one that's at the very bottom of the machine, and then 2 up in the middle. So it comes into a tree and then goes up. And the other ones have 2 small 4-inch on opposite sides. And they've got them running straight up in the air and then being pulled by what looks like air handling fans.
Hmm.
They've got a motor, the belt, the whole 9 yards. But the fan, I mean, they can turn that up to 800 CFMs, but they're only getting 400 at the machine.
Gotcha.
So, I told them, I was like, well, you can always put a 4-inch inline in here to help pull from the machine specifically to get it up into the ceiling where the rest of the ductwork is. But when we were there the other day, they were also ripping everything out because it wasn't working. To try something new.
Hmm.
The only thing I caution about some of these fan configurations is if the big fan is overspinning the small fan, okay, any kind of back EMF or generation, almost like when you push if you push the laser head, eventually it slows you down. You get that resistance, but you're spinning that motor, creating a generator. Probably not a big deal if it's just going back to your 120 mains, but when it's going back to the control panel, you've got other devices already powered up. So I always worry about that with the little booster fans or whatever.
I
So
would tell you, George, just run 2 exhausts.
Just one run a separate exhaust for each machine.
Yep,
4 machines, 4 exhausts.
that's what I would do.
yeah, smaller holes to drill out too, smaller holes to patch up.
I'm also contemplating getting an air exchange unit. This way, air coming in the summertime and it's hot gets cooled down before it enters. Vice versa, cold air in the winter gets heated up before it enters.
That's just going to help your HVAC system.
Yeah. So I'm not taxing the HVAC system as bad. I'm going back and forth with HVAC techs and talking to them about what is going to help me operate efficiently.
Well, 4 exhausts are going to pull all your bought air out. That's for sure. Any of it's going to just empty your climatized air.
I think what's going to kill my energy costs is going to be running 3 computers.
3
I
what?
don't think so.
3 computers.
Computers don't pull anything. I'd be more concerned about the machines pulling the AC air or heat out of the building.
I don't know. You'd be surprised what 2 27-inch monitors can generate for heat.
They'll generate a little bit of heat. Well, not really because they're LEDs.
George, I'm running a whole TV as my monitor. And again, my biggest energy consumption is my HVAC.
Is it?
But you're
All
also
right.
talking that
Yep.
this whole shop with 5 lasers and the 2 computers, the potential of a laptop, multiple monitors, all of the stuff that we're running, even with the air compressor. and pulling for the dust collector in the other shop. You're talking about an electric bill that I don't know that got too much over $100 with, you know, freezing temperatures outside.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever gotten over 100, but when it does get, over 50, it's because it's either really cold or really hot. And that's literally the only thing that has changed is the temperature outside. And then the fact that, we're trying to, keep things tolerable or from freezing whatever inside the shop. So that
We had what, all three machines turned on for 24 hours a day.
Oh, well, yeah. So when it was freezing, we did just leave the Novas running, so that the chillers were constantly running. There was several days, at least overnight, we made sure that they were staying running. When obviously the temperature naturally gets lower, um, to help keep things warm, since just the machine being turned on and the chiller running naturally heats up that water a little bit.
And we still didn't have a high electric bill.
And that's one of the advantages of RF is you don't have to run a water chiller, correct?
Right.
Yes.
They're just fan cooled.
Depending on the model, there will be some water cooled tubes out there.
Got that.
I can't
The,
fathom what the fans are going to sound like on.
They won't be too bad until you start cutting, and then they'll ramp up.
That's our issue.
But they're still not bad. Like if you're used to, or if you've had those old style green fans, the hamster wheel fans,
Yeah.
it still doesn't compare to those.
I put it outside when that's back when I was in the basement, and that was just such a teeny tiny little room. We put that fan outside. Tommy built a box and, weatherproofed it. It was underneath our deck. So we had smoke just rolling out from under our deck whenever I was cutting stuff. But because that little fan was so loud in that teeny tiny little room,
It's all in what you want to tolerate. That's what I've definitely learned. You know, you can OSHA says 85 decibels for 8 hours.
OSHA has not been around my wife.
You saying she's louder than 85 decibels for over 8 hours?
My wife is very loud, and it's not that she's deaf. She's just a loud individual. Her voice carries across the lake.
At least you always know where to find her.
That's true.
Isn't that a song from the 80s? Voices Carry? Till Tuesday?
That's a good question.
I know when I try, the dead can hear me. So it's
you don't have to try hard.
damn.
Always getting beat up, Tom, huh?
Well, when I went to drill sergeant school, they literally had us standing, I don't know how far apart, and having to yell commands back and forth to make sure that our voice could be heard and that we wouldn't lose it. And we did that for days. So,
Everyone's tax dollars at work.
the Army kind of ruined me. We'll just blame it on that.
What in honor of just this past Memorial Day, thank you for your service.
No worries, George.
Since Lois was talking about being locked down in the basement and she doesn't have a monitor right now, I was thinking that she was in trouble, but I think she's doing just fine there, Tommy. There's no problems with Lois today. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
If he kills the recording, I'll turn my camera on.
Yeah. I guess it's close enough. We had about 4 minutes. I don't think anybody's going to fire me for that. I can only hope.